Can you imagine when Great Britain was a wild and untamed land, ruled by fearsome predators? A time before all of these walls and fences, farms and human domination. To think our land was once roamed freely by fantastic beasts like wolves, bears and lynx. But what happened to that wild Britain? And I wonder if we'll ever reclaim it. For thousands of years, Britain was a land teeming with life. Dense forests, sprawling moorland, along with crystal clear rivers and streams, provided the perfect habitat for a diverse array of species. And at the very top of the food chain were predators like wolves, lynx and bears. And these apex predators played a huge role in shaping our ecosystems, regulating populations and keeping a balance, really. There's always a but though, isn't there? And as the human population grew, so did the pressure on the natural world. The Neolithic Revolution marked a huge turning point. Our ancestors cleared lots of forest. They started to domesticate animals, and it was basically the early days of farming. But the shift to a more settled lifestyle meant an increase in conflict with our wildlife. Predators like wolves and bears were seen as a risk to livestock and humans, and were systematically hunted and persecuted. And the arrival of the Romans just intensified the pressures on our wildlife. Roman soldiers and settlers, they brought with them new technologies, more advanced agricultural practices, which led to more deforestation and loss of habitat. Along with the increased demand for meat and fur, this just intensified the hunting of our apex predators. By the Middle Ages, most of Britain's apex predators had become extinct. By the 18th century, wolves had disappeared from the land. Lynx and bears had met earlier fates that were similar. These losses had a massive impact on the ecological balance of Britain, and it set the stage for the challenges that we're facing today. In many other parts of the world, forests like this would have some kind of apex predator, maybe bears, mountain lions or wolves. But over thousands of years here in Britain, we've gone from hunter-gatherers to farmers, clearing vast areas of woodland for growing crops and grazing livestock. And that also took away the natural habitat for predators like wolves. And any that were left, we hunted down and slaughtered to protect our livestock or to reduce interaction with us humans. So in effect, farming is designed to keep animals like wolves extinct. It's unbelievable that over 70% of Great Britain is agricultural, either for growing crops or grazing. And in addition to that, with 30 million homes, there's little wonder that our wildlife is suffering. So what are the benefits of having apex predators like wolves and lynx in your ecosystem? So not having apex predators around has allowed the herbivore population to explode, particularly deer. Once upon a time, deer sightings were pretty rare, but now they freely roam the countryside and they graze heavily on young trees and saplings. This would be a lovely snack for a deer. They're constantly eating and they destroy all of these young saplings, which in turn prevents forest regeneration, leading to things like erosion. And then you've got all the knock-on effects, implications on biodiversity, water quality, soil quality. There's just fewer trees to soak up all that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Also, it means there's a big change in the pecking order now. Next level predators such as foxes and badgers, they're now unchecked and their populations have increased massively. And that has a huge effect on their prey. So we're seeing fewer numbers of certain species of bird or small mammals. It's a bit like the old nursery rhyme, there was an old lady that swallowed a fly. You've got to have something bigger than you to feed on you. Otherwise there's a big break in the food chain and things just go out of balance and the overall ecosystem suffers for it. So if apex predators like wolves were rewilded to Britain, then it would alter the grazing patterns of animals like deer and sheep. So it's very commonplace now to see deer grazing on open pasture. If apex predators were around, this would be much more of a rare occurrence. The deer would have other things on their mind, maybe, is there a wolf watching me, rather than just mindlessly eating. There's an actual phenomenon known as the landscape of fear, where deer will alter their grazing habits, especially in areas that are susceptible to predators. It's just through fear, really. And to be honest, that's how nature should be. It all seems pretty straightforward to me. You introduce the apex predator, and you naturally reduce the amount of herbivores, which reduces the amount of overgrazing, which leads to increased biodiversity, leads to better water quality, forest regeneration. Surely there's got to be some downsides as well though, so we will talk about those later. But beyond the ecological loss of these predators, it's also taken away a little bit of our rich heritage and mythology. Wolves and bears and lynx have been an integral part of our folklore, although wolves have always seemed to have a bit of a bad rap, the big bad wolf. Stories of werewolves or the Hound of the Baskervilles, whatever it will be, I suppose that fear element has added to their downfall. But all is not lost. In recent years, there's been a growing movement to introduce rewilding to Great Britain. This would involve introducing lost species to help restore ecosystems and promote biodiversity. Reintroducing predators like lynx or wolves would be quite controversial, but potentially a very transformative step. So the idea of rewilding Britain is gaining some massive traction at the moment, helped massively by some of the successful projects that's going on around the world. For example, over in Yellowstone Park in the USA, the reintroduction of wolves, they've seen some massive improvements in the biodiversity and ecosystems, as well as they're starting to get regeneration of the forests. There are similar stories in Poland and Romania where they've reintroduced wolves and lynx. All of these projects have demonstrated a positive impact on the environment, biodiversity. Forests are becoming more vibrant and healthy again. The environment there is finding its natural balance again. So despite these successes, the thought of reintroduction of apex predators to Britain is being met with quite a bit of resistance, especially in the farming community. And I can understand that. Naturally, farmers are fearful for their livestock. Times are already hard without the stresses of worrying about potential loss of livestock to lynx. The National Sheep Association have raised concerns about the potential impact on sheep farming. They argue that lynx could prey on lambs and cause significant damage to the farming industry. However, many conservationists believe that the benefits do outweigh the risks. This is actually the sort of habitat that the lynx would love. They like to make their dens in rocky outcrops or hollowed out trees. They're actually quite shy creatures and they do not like human interaction, so they would tend to stay away in forested areas, and the very sound of a footprint would make them scarper. The lynx would tend to prey on small herbivores like rabbits, hares or small deer, but occasionally they'll opt for a small bird or rodent, and there has been the odd, very rare occurrence of them attacking domesticated animals, say maybe a sheep, but they are very solitary animals and they do tend to stay away from populated areas where we like to hang out. So for those reasons, I personally would think that the lynx would be an ideal candidate for rewilding in Britain, especially in some of the remote areas in Scotland where it would drastically alter the grazing habits of the estimated 1 million deer that live in the land of the brave. The future of Britain's wildlife hangs in the balance, but we do have to be mindful of the ever-increasing population. So rewilding Britain with apex predators, it can be successfully implemented alongside farming practices. So by implementing effective mitigation strategies such as choosing large remote areas with minimal human habitation, Places like the Scottish Highlands, which is perfect for the reintroduction of lynx. We need to create buffer zones between the rewilding areas and farming areas. Simple things like implementing non-lethal deterrents, such as fencing or guard dogs to protect livestock, and introduce a compensation scheme for farmers that suffer any losses. So that would alleviate a lot of their concerns and improve cooperation. It's pretty clear that successful rewilding projects in other countries have shown the positive impact of apex predators on our ecosystem. Of course, there's going to be some challenges and risk when it comes to any rewilding project, but with careful planning, public engagement and adaptive management, we can ensure a successful outcome for both people and wildlife. So I've put a fair few hours of research into putting this video together, so I would be grateful if you would hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. There's so much information out there that I've missed, that maybe I've not included. And if you've got any nuggets of wisdom or knowledge when it comes to rewilding, then please let everybody know in the comments and we can maybe all learn from it. So feel free to do a bit of digging of your own to find out some more information. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.